Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show, highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community, and neighborhood. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. And Dorothy, it's unusual that it's hard sometimes during the holidays, Christmas and New Year's,
yes,
to be able to schedule
yes, it is.
shows. People are in transit, but we've been very lucky. We had a show last week with the Redeemer Church.
Yes, we did.
And right before Christmas. And this particular week has always been difficult.
That's because everybody's out.
Everybody's out. Everybody's celebrating.
Everybody's taking a day off, putting their feet up.
And in the case of one of our guests today, also busy getting over a cold.
Yes.
And but yet she came in anyway. It's New Year's weekend, and it's a chance, a start of new beginnings. It's a time to reflect. Holidays always serve as benchmarks for people when they measure perhaps where they are compared to where they were a year ago.
Yep.
Well, the guests at my table, in particular, John Lynn, has been a friend of mine for, this is going on 17 years. And every year, I've had the opportunity to see him grow up, to grow up, to mature, to succeed. The Lin family is probably best known in Moore County for their restaurant, the China Garden Restaurant, which is on the corner of 15501, catty corner to Panera. And for people that were here prior to 1998, I think they would remember that as a steakhouse.
Yeah, I believe it was a...
What was it, John?
Western Sizzling?
Yeah, Western Sizzling.
Western Sizzler. Do you remember that, Dorothy?
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That was a long time ago.
So, John and Winnie, thanks for coming. I know you're fighting a bad cold like I am.
Yes.
So instead of sounding like a soprano today, you might sound like a baritone. Just a little?
Feeling a little better.
Are you?
Mm-hmm.
Did your kids get you sick?
Yes.
Running around for Christmas?
Yes.
17 years ago, I met John at the restaurant. Do you remember how we met that day?
Yeah. So I was sitting down at a table and looking through the real estate book.
That's exactly right.
Looking for a house, and
that's exactly right.
Bill was dining in there, and then he came up, and he started introducing himself, and he said, "You're looking for a house?" That's how it all started.
As I remember, you and your dad were sitting looking at the real estate book, and your father was speaking with you in Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
And you, in fact, were returning the conversation in Chinese. And I'm sitting 2 tables away, and I had just moved to the area and would come in for lunch from time to time. And when we started to speak, you took the lead. You were, at the time, 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad didn't speak English.
No.
So he leaned on you as a 14-year-old to take the lead in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Your reaction to me at first was you were defensive. You were, not trusting, like, oh, who is this and what is he trying to do or sell? And that's a normal reaction, isn't it, in your culture?
It is.
Always has been.
Yeah.
The good news about that, though, is once trust is established, the loyalty is incredible. But there was just an inherent mistrust, I think, in starting the conversation.
Well, it's also a salesman. That's we have that mentality
right
towards salesmen.
You moved to Aberdeen in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when you opened the restaurant?
I think the restaurant was opened in March of '99. Okay. We were here in '98, and then they started remodeling starting late in '98.
And before you came here, you grew up in Brockport, New York?
Brockport, New York.
And your father started a restaurant business up there?
Yeah, a small place up in there. A takeout place in Brockport.
What prompted his move to Moore County?
Well, family. We have families in Hope Mill and Fayetteville area.
Okay.
And that's why we moved down here. And then we started looking around the surrounding areas of Hope Mills and found this place here.
You were a freshman in high school, I think, when we finally met. And your sister, Jean, she was in 8th grade or 7th grade?
8th.
Okay, so she was 1 year behind you. Your father and mother, who I got to meet, I would refer to them as tough love parents, task masters, if you will.
They're tough.
They were tough when you were young, and I admired the way they raised you. You would come home from school. When they would come home from high school and from middle school, immediately they would have to work in the restaurant. Then they would disappear, and where would they go? They would go to one of the corners of the restaurant where they would do their homework, and that was done every day.
Yep. Well, my parents didn't know any English,
Right.
so anything that got to do with handling like health department or any technical stuff, you had to wait till when we get off from school, and then they'll leave the phone number for us to call, to deal with that.
When you and Jean were raised in school, English was a second language, but you had to learn English because that's a school system you both were in. You provided your parents a very important bridge because they didn't speak English, and they didn't seem to want to learn.
No.
Is that true?
Especially my father. He does not want to.
Right.
I don't know why. But
Because he has you.
Right. That's exactly right.
But when we first came here, they both made sure that we learn English. We learn it quickly.
Right.
We learned it because they spent so much time in the beginning.
Right.
When we started, they had a professor in SUNY, the State University of New York.
Right.
There's a professor there from a university from China. He was teaching Chinese there, and he went to the school there and asked school to pay him to teach us English, at the school.
Right.
And the school agreed. So school paid him to come to the school every day to teach us English with the Chinese, definitions.
Okay.
So we take those vocabulary home every day. And my dad, before we even go to bed, my dad would, quiz us, reading out Chinese, and we would have to write out English every day.
Wow.
It was a nightmare.
But both of you were honor students when you both graduated from Pinecrest High School, and I had the privilege of seeing you guys both graduate and work hard. And writing was harder for you, wasn't it, than speaking? I think for both you and your sister.
Well, she's okay in that department.
Right.
I'm just never the writing, speaking type.
Well, you're doing great today.
Thank you.
Winnie, one of the most impressive, in the 17 years I've been in the real estate business, one of them, and Dee, who works with me, will remember this. After Chong's parents purchased their first home with us, you also got introduced at that time to Frank Thigpen. And that is a relationship that now has grown over the years.
It has.
And they contacted me, and they wanted to build a house because they needed more space. And so we worked with the builder to build a home for them. But the challenges we had were tremendous cultural barriers about how new construction is done in America versus in China. And we had to go through the process where I would have to explain it in English to Chong and Jean, and then they would have to learn it, then turn around and in Chinese explain it to their parents. And every step of the way, they had things to understand like upcharges, zoning requirements. There was a list of things. So it was a process where both Chong and Jean learned how to do it, then took it in from English to Chinese to explain it in a way that, and your dad, if you remember, he kind of fought every step of the way, like, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that?
Well, now I understand how difficult it is. Well, because he didn't understand how the real estate building works and what are the actual, earnest money wise and everything else. We just had no idea.
That's right.
And then we would just go with the flow and have to trust them. Or trust definitely. With that being the second house, I would say it has been a lot easier, even because of you, Bill, because we had the trust between us, and that made it a whole lot easier. If we went with a new broker,
well, there are a couple of things, Winnie, that he said I have to comment on. Number one, they were fighting the cultural mistrust of the American system, and they were trying very, very hard to see past their defensive patterns. And I would say, it's okay. This is the way we have to do it. It's fair. So they fought through that. However, it didn't go so smoothly because one day I came into the restaurant. It was after school, and Jean was sitting there, and I was talking to her brother, and she got very involved in the process. She couldn't take it anymore, and she said, "Oh, Bill, you're giving me such a headache." I'll never forget that she said that. And she just knew we were going to start a conversation that would have to be interpreted to her dad and her mom. And then they would have to fight through it, the four of them, while I sat at another table waiting for the verdict, like, are we going to get past this step? But at the end of the day, we got through it. You understood that you learned the process.
Yes, I did. It was very difficult because I didn't know anything about real estate, anything about buying homes. A lot of technical terms. I have no idea what it means. Going through that contract is, whew.
Well, for people that don't know, during the course of the show, we're going to find out just how much you have learned and what you've done with it, because you've made some very important transitions in your life. Where you are now much more involved in the real estate business. But before we even segue into that, let's go back to the restaurant. Mm-hmm. Because you learned, by the time you were a freshman and a sophomore in high school, in my mind, you had more knowledge than a lot of college graduates in running a business in this country and working as a conduit with your dad. Your skill set was pretty impressive.
Well, my mom, since I was 11, she always shared with me about business side of, how to run a business, and she always giving me information about business.
Right.
At age 11.
Right.
Money coming in, money going out, and so that's just her ways of raising her children.
It was also the way she told you she loved you, because she wanted you to be successful and she wanted you to be able to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And you couldn't slack off. Tough love. And Jean too.
Yeah.
I have so many memories of that, but you worked with food. Tell me some of the things you did while you were in high school. What facets of the business, of the restaurant business, were you handling with your sister?
Well, we handle the front side of the restaurants, dealing with customers, dealing with general public, and then dealing with food ordering through U.S. Food and Cisco's, and dealing with health departments and setting things up. Just anything that involves speaking English that we have to deal with.
And all the regulations that
Yep.
the U.S. system imposes that was not what you were used to in China.
No. There's no, well, back then, there's no health department in China. No way.
Right.
So over here, it's a lot to learn, but, we got used to it quickly, and that's where we at today.
To this day, can you look back at your parents, because they have sort of semi-retired from the restaurant business? You've been running it. Do you have a greater appreciation for them, for what they've done for you as parents?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The older I get, the more appreciated I am. I fully understand some of the stuff that they said,
Because they were crazy then, right? But today they're smart.
Yeah. Back then I always tell my dad, I'm 16. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Why
Right.
are you being so tough? Why you tell me I can't do this, I can do that? So
He didn't want you guys to have a lot of fun, not a lot of social recreation. It was you had to work, you had to study.
But no, they let me go anywhere, and they wanted me to see the world. So I took on trips, and they never say no. They always encourage us to go out and just see go different countries, see different places.
Yeah.
So,
Winnie, I think it's interesting that today, as a father of 3 boys, he's a very loving dad. He supports each one of his sons, and they're all different.
Yes.
All different personalities,
Yes.
and yet he is able to position himself in such a way that each son gets the best that he has to offer.
Yes.
We're going to talk about your family when we come back in the second set. We're going to talk about your sister a little bit, and we want to talk about the transition that you guys are making into our world, the real estate world. We're speaking with the Lin family on All Things Moore County. We'll be right back.
Our mum, she's so house proud. Nothing ever slows her down, and a mess is not allowed. Our house. Our house, it has a crowd. There's always something happening.
Welcome back to All Things Moore County. We're speaking all about the Lin family today, our first show of the year, and a 17-year relationship that has seen both John and Jean grow. They're both married today. Jean has 1 boy. You have 3.
Yep.
So no girls, but just a lot of boys.
No girls, all boys.
Your sister, I'm very fond of her. I've always been very fond of her. And I've seen her grow into just a beautiful, smart, successful lady. She has a lot of the characteristics of your parents.
She does.
She is sweet, she's tough, resilient.
Yep, strong-willed.
Always strong-willed. There were times that she would take you apart as a kid verbally, and I thought, oh my God, he's never going to overcome this. She was the size of a minute, but a steely resolve that she has.
Yeah, she has, we'll have fights, and she'll be over it in a couple hours.
Right. She was raised a lot tougher than I've seen a lot of American families raise their daughters. Your parents seem to be as tough on her as they were on you.
Yeah, equally tough on both of us.
Today she works for the Belk Corporation.
Yeah.
And Connor is how old now?
2.5.
2.5. And one of your boys are, Alex is?
10.
Okay. Ryan?
6.
And Aiden?
He'll be 4, end of January.
Okay. These 4, and they were all with you at Christmas,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And they took over your house, and that's why you've come down with a bad chest cold.
We had 7 kids at our house this Christmas.
Wow.
Because we had John's cousins,
Okay.
all 3, and then we had Connor,
Right.
my 3 boys, and then we had another little girl.
Right.
And her mom was working at a restaurant, so we took her at our house too.
I was honored and I was pleased to attend your wedding.
Yes.
And how many years ago was that now?
11
11 years. You just had your anniversary.
in September.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got married in Chinatown in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if it was the first time I met Winnie, if it was at your wedding or if I had met her before then.
I have met you before.
How did you meet? How did you and Chong?
We met through a friend. Well, she's my cousin, actually, and his friend.
Okay.
I was at a friend's wedding in New York also.
It was in Chinatown.
Mm-hmm.
And you're originally from Philadelphia?
I was born and raised in New York City,
I didn't know that.
and then I moved to Philadelphia.
How old were you when you?
Moved to Philadelphia
Yeah.
when I was 17.
I didn't know. I didn't
I
know
was
you lived.
I lived in New York City in Chinatown for 17 years.
Did you really?
Mhm.
I always thought you were from Philadelphia.
No, I was born in St. Vincent's Hospital.
Were you really? And so your parents are in Philadelphia today.
They are actually overseas now in China.
Okay.
We do have a house in Philadelphia, but they retired, so they're overseas now in China, and they haven't been out since maybe 5 years, 6 years.
Okay. So you guys met at a wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest was history.
Yeah, I didn't even want to go.
To the
'Cause-
wedding?
Yeah, because I wasn't. My mom was going, but I didn't know anybody. But my cousin says that it's the first time she's seen these classmates from China,
Mm-hmm.
and she was scared. So she said, "Just come along, it'll be fun." I said, "Sure, why not?"
Well, her mom was there.
My mom was there too. She was sitting at the next table.
Her mom's house, well, her parents' house,
Uh-huh.
and our house were about a block away.
In China.
In China.
Is that right?
Village, yes. We are in the same village.
Is it true that when you marry, a lot of times marriages, I don't want to use the word arranged, but families do get involved in terms of matching you up?
Well,
We were never matched, but yes.
families do get involved.
And especially since we're from the same village,
Right.
so they kind of know, like, what kind of people they are, because everybody knows everybody in China, and everybody talks about everybody in China. So they kind of know, he's a good kid. So
Good family.
good family.
Right.
But,
The thing about that is, if you live in the same village, they can ask around about how that
they'll
person
investigate around.
is.
I understand.
Yeah.
So when he coming into the Lin family, you heard Chong and I speak a little bit about his parents in the first set. What are your observations from what we've talked about?
You learn as you go. I was definitely not brought up the way he was. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but there's obviously, a difference, a gap in the love showing, but you really learn as you go. And I've been in the family for almost 12 years.
Right.
And I understand. And I would love my boys to be like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So as much as Chong's parents showed tough love, I see them as very generous, very loyal. They'll do anything for their family, their grandsons.
Yes.
They're now at the point where they're reaping maybe the rewards of what a great job they did with Chong and Jean.
Yeah.
very loving.
Yes.
But you have to get on the inside to see it,
Yes.
not from the outside.
And they're like that with my boys now.
Right.
And I really appreciate that because that's not a position that I could put myself in because that's not how I was raised.
Not as much tough love.
Yeah.
You were the daddy's girl? Were you?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have a brother, but he never lived with us.
Right.
He went with because we used to kind of move around from Philadelphia and New York, and the school systems weren't so great. So he was always with my aunt and uncle. They went from Maryland to North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was usually pretty much an only child to my mom and dad. So, we would take trips. We would go, to eat brunch every Sunday when my dad was off. That's how I was raised.
You know what fathers would say to their daughters when they were the favorites? Oh, how are you feeling? How do you feel? Are you in a good mood? What's wrong? What can I do to make you happy?
Oh, my parents never once asked me that.
No, nor did they ask your sister that.
No.
I know. It's a softer love.
Mm-hmm.
But the two of you now are parents of three very bright, very handsome, very personable boys. They're fun-loving, they're smart, they're articulate, they're not shy.
At times.
At times?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen their guard come down, I guess, as they got comfortable knowing
Yes.
me.
Every day we drive by your office.
Yeah.
Little one goes, Uncle Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if they see your car. If they don't see your car, they don't say anything.
Is that right?
Yes. Because they know you're at the office. So, and they always say, let's go in and say hi. And when we have time, we always take the boys in and say hi to you.
All three of your boys are at EDS.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You wanted to put them into private school. You wanted them to tell me about your view on education.
Well, it started with just Alex because English was like his second language.
Right.
Because he was so fluent in Chinese.
Right.
So we felt like his vocabulary and his English was a little behind. So we wanted him to be somewhere where there's a smaller environment for him to catch up quicker.
Right.
But we ended up falling in love with Episcopal Day School and the teachers and everyone there.
Right.
So, 1 year became 2 year, 2 year became 3 years. He's in 5th grade now.
Right.
He'll be graduating from elementary school in June.
He'll be a middle schooler.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
And then we have Ryan. We figure Alex is in there. It's better that we put them together.
Right.
So, and then there's Aiden.
Aiden decided that he would go to school instead of host a talk show, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's got a real personality.
Yes, he does.
They all do. One of the impressive things about Episcopal Day School is the tenure of so many of the teachers, how long they've been there.
Mm-hmm.
That speaks volumes about the quality of attention and the education that the boys get.
Well, we love the school, and the boys definitely love the school.
Right.
And it's great to see your kids love to go to school.
Yeah. They don't want to miss a day.
That's unbelievable.
Even if Alex is sick, he's like,
Yeah.
no, I think I'm fine. I can go.
Really?
They don't want. He don't want to miss if he's going to be behind or not.
And you just had a couple of Christmas events where the boys were involved in some of the Christmas shows.
They have a Christmas show every year.
Right.
And every year they're excited about it.
Well, I do want to bring up one thing before we go to break, and that is your relationship with your sister-in-law.
Mm-hmm. We're best friends.
You are best friends.
Yes.
I see that, and I see it not just on social media. I see it when I see you in person. It's almost like you are sisters.
Yes.
Aside from your husband.
Yes.
So your bond is very real.
Yes, because being in a town where, especially being a stay-at-home mom,
Right.
At such a young age and at a new place, I don't get out much. So I don't meet a lot of people. And she's pretty much, she was home when I first got married because she was going to school here.
Mm-hmm.
So we just got closer and closer. And as the years, she's pretty much our only family here in
Right.
North Carolina.
Right.
And my only best friend here as well.
Right.
So
I think that's great, but you referenced yourself as a stay-at-home mom, but as we go into the third set, we're going to find out that that's no longer the case.
no.
And that your family has, in the last couple of years, in addition to running the restaurant, of which you work quite actively, you're also transitionalizing into a different environment and a different culture in the real estate world.
Yes.
Both of you, and you're becoming a very potent team, and we're going to talk about that a little bit, and what the hopes you have for your kids are as they get older. Because, Chung, you had a vision growing up what you were going to be doing, and that vision has changed.
It has. I always thought I was going to be an engineer, but I was at NC State at 18, and then I decided to quit.
Right.
And to start to open in another restaurant. So, and then
In South Carolina.
I remember that.
And I never went back to school.
I remember that. I remember you talking to me about this lease that they were showing you, and you were going to expand the restaurant business, but maybe in a way that, because it didn't happen, it opened the doors to some other things that we're going to talk about in set number 3.
Yep.
We'll be right back. This is we're talking with the Lin family. This is All Things Moore County.
In the middle of our house, in the middle of our streets, our house. Nothing ever slows her down, and a mess is not allowed. Our house.
Welcome back to our final set, talking with the Lin family, the owners of the well-known China Garden restaurant. But more than the restaurant business, it's a family that has been here for 18 years, that have grown, they've prospered, they've now started families of their own, and like so many other people, they have been in a transition in their lives, career-wise. And Chung, I remember, I guess it was 2004, 2003 when you were a senior. What year did you graduate Pinecrest?
03.
Okay. So in 03, you had a class, and I remember you asked me, and you kind of shadowed me for a couple of days when you kind of wanted to see what I did, and you knew I was not in the restaurant business. You had a taste for it and interest in what I did.
Yes.
And you would always ask questions.
Yeah.
I never asked those type of questions when I was a senior. I wasn't that curious. But you were older than your age, I always thought.
I was, and have a business mentality.
Right. You understood.
Yes.
By the time you graduated high school, you were more qualified for a lot of jobs that were out there. But those opportunities were never put in front of you because it was just assumed you would just stay in the restaurant business. That would become yours.
No, that was my choice. That was solely my choice. You know, I went to school, and when I dropped out of school, my parents asked me, you know, it's your choice. You make your own choice.
Right.
I was young. I was ambitious, so I dropped out. I want to expand
the restaurant business.
Yes.
How'd that go?
It was a great lesson. I realized bigger is not necessarily better.
Right.
I went over there. We had a much bigger restaurants, a lot more employees. Wow, a lot more headaches and a lot more stuff to deal with.
Right.
And it was okay. It was not as good as we wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have 2 restaurants that we were running back and forth. It was a lot on my mom because she has to stay back here and handling the whole restaurant herself. So it was a lot. So we decided to sold that one down in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lesson to be learned. Then I realized when I came back, wow, even though this is a small town, smaller restaurant, older restaurants, and nothing exciting about it, but learn to love it. And wow, it's steady, smaller restaurant, less employees, less less headaches, stress levels a lot less. So,
but you always had an itch to do something else as well.
Oh yeah, restaurant business is very time consuming. I don't get to see my kids as often as I would like. Weekends are always busy, so weekends
There's
always.
no weekend for us.
There's no weekend for you, right? Maybe in about
Weekends are longer hours.
8 more years, you can start having weekends again. when the boys are out of high school, or they don't want to be home, or they're on their way to college, or whatever. But so you have, both of you actually have started to make a transition as a part-time thing, investing in real estate.
Yeah.
And Winnie, you've recently gotten your license, and it's given you an opportunity after so many years of being a stay-at-home mom to get out into the real estate arena and to work with your husband, which is a wonderful thing to be able to do. How long have you had your license?
Since April.
Okay. But you've been also managing rental properties.
Rental properties. We have 7 rental properties in Moore County.
Okay. And how did you start the process of acquiring those?
Well, it was a friend of my mom's. They live in right outside of Chicago, in Illinois, and their son bought a lot of rental up there.
Okay.
And she was telling my mom about it. They, before that, they were in the restaurant business as well.
Right.
And she said that her son loved it, and why don't you guys look into it? And that's how it all started.
And that kind of attracted your itch for real estate, which started way back when?
It was 11 years ago.
Right.
I had my real estate license.
That's right. But you let it go.
Yeah, I let it go.
But you have Winnie.
Yeah.
So you're in good hands.
Now I don't need it.
So Winnie, you've been not only raising your kids, you've also been managing the rental properties and managing the tenants, and can be challenging.
It can be. It's definitely more different than stay-at-home mom. Actually having to meet people and have adult conversations.
Right. Which you're going to be having a lot more as we go forward, for sure.
No, she has great relationship with our tenants.
I'm sure. I'm sure. You've started recently in Moore County purchasing homes that were not for rental, but homes that you've purchased, renovated,
Yes.
turned around and sold, and you've had in the last 2 years, you've had a very impressive track record.
We did.
Yeah. It was a pleasure for me to watch it from afar, and then to sort of get a little more intimately involved with it. And I got a huge kick just this year out of introducing you to Rachel Hernandez, who is a very well-respected broker and a friend from Keller Williams, where she had an opportunity on a home, and I thought, oh my gosh, this sounds like something that would be right up your alley, and it gave you a chance, number one, to branch out and to meet someone like Rachel,
Right.
work through the process with her, and you had my blessings. You know that, right?
Yes.
And so now you have a situation where you're renovating. I don't know which home this is. Your 4th home, your 5th home,
fifth.
Fifth.
Yeah.
Fifth home.
Yeah. If you lose count, that's a good sign. What have you learned in the process of the 5 homes? What are the most important takeaways that you've gotten as you continue to do this?
Well, first, we need to know what condition the home is in. The fundamentals of homes that need to be addressed, the major issues need to be addressed first,
Right.
and then work our way down to the cosmetic and picking out furniture, fixtures, and that kind of colors and whatnot.
When you sell a home, do you say to yourselves, do you have a conversation like, the next time we do this, we're going to do this
Yes.
better? Or, like, what do you talk about, Winnie?
We talk about, our steps, what's important needs to be addressed first. What buyers look for. And, we'll say, okay, next time we know that, what's important to the buyers, we'll address those. Some of the little things that we stress about, they don't even care.
Right.
And we are stressing about, what color goes with what, or what kind of kitchen fixture, and
Right.
the lights. But they mainly don't even care about that. So.
Well, there are good people in town like Francie Thompson over at Total Design Solutions that can help you a lot with stuff like
Yes.
that. And if you get yourself to a point, because time is money too, and
Yes.
you have to move quickly through. You can't just. This is not. We'll take this year and renovate a home. You're under the gun a little bit.
But we learn a lot over
Yeah.
the past few houses.
Right.
We also met a lot of people, met a lot of contractors, and
Right.
so we have a good relationship with them. So
It's all about surrounding yourself with good people, isn't it?
yes,
It makes the whole process go. So I referenced a property that you did with Rachel. The neat thing about that home was you can renovate the home, but it also came with an additional lot.
yes.
What are you going to be doing with that lot?
I think we're gonna build a house on that lot.
Okay. And is this something you're going to be doing yourself? Are you working through who?
I'm currently working with Randy Hunt Constructions. We're talking now on details on
Right.
putting a house there.
Right. Randy's a very well-respected contractor in the area, builds beautiful homes. What's interesting? We have one thing in common over the years, even though we're from different generations. We both enjoy the process of renovating and beautifying the area, improving homes. And you're doing that with the renovations, and now you are looking at possibly building 1 or 2 homes as you go.
Mm-hmm.
If you can find the right property.
Yeah, if we can find the right lot.
Yeah. I've learned that sometimes the least expensive lot is not the best investment.
No.
What do you guys
Sure.
think? What do you think makes the best investment? If it's not the price, obviously.
Make the best investment. Location of wise
Yeah.
has to be in a good location.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Lot. You also need to look at the lot also.
That's the engineer in him coming out. He's talking about the topography.
Well, some lots are, very slopes, and it's very difficult and very costly
Right.
to build.
Right. Tell me a little bit about now you have 3 boys,
Mhm.
and I see you both as very proactive parents and loving parents. Maybe there's that tough love. I don't see it as much as I saw it with your parents with you. Do you see that you are a little softer than your mom and dad were with you?
Oh yeah, we're definitely softer.
When he's
than
saying
my
yep,
parents.
yep,
Yes,
The
definitely.
boys
It's just-
adore him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the boys know that they can milk it with him.
Uh-huh.
And when daddy's around,
Yeah.
everything is different.
When I'm home, they started acting up.
They start acting up like they think they can get away with everything, and they just want him to love and baby them.
Uh-huh.
And I said, you guys were perfectly fine when daddy's not home.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now they need their dad.
Well, have become the classic disciplinarian, right?
I try, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's just hard to just be the bad guy.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, okay, no. But sometimes there's a lot of stuff I'm hard on. There's just certain areas that I'm not.
Right.
Because, I don't know. I just try to balance it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I think to myself, I say, I don't want them to hate me.
Right.
That's what I worry about. I'm like, they're going to hate me. Like, all I do is yell at them and scream at them. Daddy comes home. All that he does is love them.
Well, because I'm, I don't get to see them as often as her, and so I don't want to be the bad guy.
But does your father, your parents, do they
Yeah.
give you a hard time about you should be
Yes.
tougher with them?
Yes, my dad tells
Right.
me all the time, you can't let them walk over you.
Right.
And when they get just a little older, getting into teens,
Right.
It's harder.
that's when the problem
And then
starts.
they try their very best to step up.
Right.
But they say, we're just the grandparents. We're supposed to be spoiling them. They're going to hate us.
Right.
Saying grandparents are always so hard on them,
Right. So
And,
Alex,
and every day I explain to the kids, you do know grandma and grandpa loves you very much, and they're doing this for your own, especially Alex, because he's the oldest.
yeah,
Tell him that, grandma's doing this for you because, it's for your very best. And he's like, I understand, I know.
yeah.
So we try to get that mentality in them where they know that grandparents love them very much.
Alex is only about 2 years away from using the word whatever when something happens that he's not going to agree with and he's going to buck you guys in normal adolescence. And boy, then, Chung, your dad is going to really come down on you and say, see, I told you.
I stay tough on him.
Yeah.
Especially the oldest. Because he's older now, and I've been pretty tough on him.
Does he get, since he's your oldest, does he understand what you're doing in the real estate business? Does he go with you? Does he see what you're doing? Is he interested?
He asks about it, and then he's very hands-on.
Yeah.
He asks about it, and then when we do go out, and he likes to go out with us, and
Yeah.
just to see it.
Yeah. And do they know what mommy's doing now that you're in the real estate
Yes.
business and you're managing tenants and working with John?
They know that I work with Uncle Bill.
They know that you work with Uncle Bill. But for the boys, it's honestly, it's a great thing for them to see their mom. Yeah, being a mom, but also being out there
Yes.
and working with people, because they will. It's just a good way for them to look at you, not just
Yeah.
strictly being there 100% for them, even though you are. What are you looking forward to, both of you, for 2017? It should be a very exciting year.
I can't wait. I'm getting ready. I'm ready to start.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't know. We'll see what's going to be ahead of us,
You've made a great start. The restaurant is doing well, and it's still a full-time job.
It is.
That's not going to change.
No, right now we're the busiest we have ever been. This restaurant, so it'll be a challenging year, but I'm looking forward to it.
So many families in Moore County know you, Chung. They've seen you and your sister Jean grow up here, know your parents, and you've had many loyal customers over the years. And how about the lady that was so funny when you went under contract to purchase a home in Highland Trails? And that I introduced you to her, and that you looked at each other, and she said, "Oh my gosh," because she's a regular in your restaurant.
Yes, she is.
That's what makes Moore County such a small world.
Yes.
Yes.
The Lin family is they've done a lot here in 18 years, and the work of Chung, of your mom and your dad, with you, with your sister Jean, with Winnie, with Vincent, Jean's husband, they are able to sit back and see that even though it's an American dream, it's a dream of different cultures, but it's one that is working, and they should both be very proud of you and your sister and Winnie and Vincent, what you're doing and what we look forward to seeing you do in the future.
She is, but my mom's always a mom, and she's a worrywart. Now that her kids are grown and taking care of themselves, and now she's worrying about her grandkids.
Yeah. I wish you guys both the very best this year. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
It's a
Happy
pleasure
New Year
to
to you.
sit here at this table with you. And Winnie, thanks for braving your chest cold and coming in. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New
Talk to you
Year.
next week.